So that was in Belgium at the time. There was conscription in Belgium, and so basically every 18-year-old male would be called up for military service, which was a year. And I had managed to get out of it the first year because I was 18, but I was in college, and I had managed to defer it because I was in college. But then I was told when the second year came around, so that I was 19, and I was told, no, you have to go now. And I was like, oh, hang on, I'm still in college. And, and they were like, well, it's the last year that we're doing it, so everybody has to do it. You don't have a choice. So I wasn't keen on going. I really wasn't keen on going.
Was there a reason for you not to be keen?
There's several reasons, really, to be honest with you. I was this alternative kind of hippie kid out in the west of Ireland. Military life wasn't really my, whole focus. And I mean, I suppose as well, the other thing was as well that, I never really had a lot of truck with the Belgian state, being Flemish and quite proudly so, I wasn't really keen on being, told by the Belgian state, you need to go into the army now. Mm. And also, I lived in the west of Ireland. I had a completely different life. And I was in college. I had a lot of other things that were on at the time. So there was a lot of reasons why I didn't want to go. But when I went to sort of state my case as why I shouldn't go, I was semi-forced into it by basically being told, if you don't go and you go back to visit your family, we can arrest you and we can put you in for 5 years military service instead of 1, right? Wow. I was like, whoa. And then I said to them, what are you going to do? I'm in the west of Ireland. Are you going to come and get me? And then it was like, yeah, we can send military police to come and get you. That is a possibility. So I was like, right. So very quickly, it was apparent that I didn't have a choice and that I had to go. So anyway, in the end, I went. And I was 19 and arrived in, and like I wasn't fit at all, and somehow I managed to get into the highest fitness category. I still don't understand how. I don't know what the standard was, but it must
I wonder about the other guys.
But it was a weird, I mean, the whole thing, the start of it was weird. I was in a unit with a load of guys. Basically, the law at the time was if you were born in Belgium and you lived there for a year and you were male, then you were, going to do your military service. And so I was in this mad unit of these guys. There was a guy there from Texas, a cowboy, mad guy, right? Didn't speak a word of Dutch, not a word of French. He'd moved to Texas when he was like 2, right? So he comes in his cowboy hat and his cowboy boots, and it was like, what the hell? And all these random guys from all over the world, basically, who called up at the same time. The only one guy that was actually happy about being in the Belgian army was a guy who lived in Sarajevo. So this was 1991, 92. You can imagine what the situation was in Sarajevo. So this guy was delighted. He brought his guitar to Belgium. He was like, I'm going to the military service to avoid the war. So it was, and it was very bizarre, kind of. The whole thing was extremely strange. But I suppose the first 6 weeks or 7 weeks, I can't remember, maybe 2 months it was training. So I got called up into the Air Force, and because, again, I don't know how, but because I got into the higher fitness level, I was going to be an air commando, which is basically a commando on the ground defending air bases, right? So the first, like I said, 2 months was going to be just training. Now, the interesting part of it was that quite quickly I discovered, being a country kid from the west of Ireland and having played soldiers with my friends in the fields for years, at day, at night, this was a big advantage to me because I knew what I had to do. So I could think outside the box, and I could think, well, all these other guys were all city kids. They had never even seen a field, don't mind being stuck in the middle of a muddy field somewhere in whatever. So their their thinking was all city. My thinking was, yeah, I live in the country. I can do this. So I had a slightly different mindset. The interesting part about it was that at the beginning it was a joke, but I had two quite tough sergeants, and in the beginning they basically said, "Oh, this guy has come in from the IRA, and he wants to learn how to use weapons." And it was a joke in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
But very quickly it became not a joke, because after a while they realized that I was able to do stuff and that I was able to think outside the box on certain maneuvers, or in a nighttime maneuver, just because I grew up in the countryside and because I had that kind of experience. So it became very much like, they would search the other guys for ammunition after we'd done a shooting exercise, for example, right? And then they would search me 3 times, because they were convinced that I was actually taking ammunition out of the guns to send to the IRA. I mean, mad stuff.
No way.
So it became really like this kind of hammer to break me down. It was constant all the time. Oh, that's our little IRA man over there. Or that's our,
What year was that?
It was 91 going into 92.
Okay.
So the troubles in Northern Ireland were still quite, active, let's say. So in the beginning, I knew it was a joke, and it had started as a joke, but fairly quickly it became that it wasn't a joke anymore, and it was constant, and these guys were constantly in my face, and anything that was going on, any, I don't know, issues that were going on, oh, there's our IRA man again, I was like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Crazy stuff. But, like, the thing about it is, I really didn't want to go. I really tried my hardest not to go. But I learned a lot probably about myself in it. And I guess it sort of marked me out. And I know that's kind of a, it makes a man out of you. All this kind of, that's not the truth. But I did learn a lot about myself. And I learned a lot about the fact that I'm quite resilient, but I can think outside the box. I don't have to go in the lines, the military kind of lines. I'm able to go operate outside of that. So they were all pretty good lessons. Later in life, I respected that. Also, if you've got 2 sergeants who are absolute, I don't need to say the word, but who are on your case all the time, right? Mm-hmm. You can deal with any boss you've ever had in your life. Any boss. Do you know what I mean? It sort of sets you up for your career going forward, dealing with authority, if you've got 2 absolute horrendous guys to start it off with. But yeah, it was a crazy, weird, strange experience. And I guess, like, as I say, I learned a lot about it. I learned a lot about myself. Now, am I ever going to be able to, am I ever going to have to use an automatic weapon? Probably not. Am I have to use a machine gun? Probably not. Am I going to use what they call a light anti-tank weapon? Mm-hmm. I can guarantee you that's not going to happen on a Friday night in South County Dublin. But there was a lot of other things that I learned about myself, which was cool, and I got a lot from it. And I probably didn't realize half as much as I did at the time. But it was strange, like, because I was not living in Belgium, so therefore I didn't have a residency in Belgium, if you like. In Belgium, it's all about, you're living in an area and all this kind of stuff. I didn't have an address. So, for instance, when I got sent to my base after my training, I was the only one who was staying on the base all the time. So there was a base for probably about 600 soldiers, and I was the only one staying there. So I had to stay there during the week, and then I had to get a special dispensation from the captain to be able to go to see my grandfather at the weekend. Ridiculous, Yeah. So weird, but in the end, I suppose a good experience, and also, like I said, it taught me a lot. And like for instance, the sort of, let's say we're doing a nighttime raid. We had to do this raid on a radio tower one time. And the idea was that 25 soldiers were guarding the tower, and they had lights and everything like that. This is 3 o'clock in the morning. And there's 25 soldiers who have to try and get to that tower without being seen. So the first time we went up, everybody got seen, of course, because you're coming out of darkness into light straight away, and there's no cover. So, and then I said to myself, I was like, can I maybe just walk up? I mean, I'm wearing camouflage gear. I'm wearing black. I'm in the same uniform as they are. I'm carrying the same gun as they are. I look exactly like them. I'm wearing full camouflage. If I just step up and walk, they're going to think I'm a guard, which is exactly what happened. And I said to the sergeant, that's what I'm going to do. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're going to be spotted and whatever else, the usual that he was going to give me. Anyway, after a few minutes, the spotlight went down. I stood up and I walked up the hill, just gun in hand like that, walked. Didn't run, walked. Nobody saw me because I looked exactly like them. Walked up to the radio mast, stuck my hand on it and said, I'm here. And straight away, I was like, how did you do that? How did you do that? And I was like, I just walked and I used my brain, maybe, you know. So stuff like that. But that didn't help me on the situation of them saying that I was from the IRA and that I was all this kind of stuff, because I was good at this kind of stuff. They were like constantly, then it got worse and worse, you know, so it just became all the time. But, you know, I learned that, you know, living in the countryside and playing soldiers as kids can actually get you some, you know, it's funny.
Yeah, it's not only bad. Yeah. So how much time did you spend there? Oh.
Well, actually, so I was supposed to do it a year. And actually, they were supposed to test me for asthma when I started. And I told them I had asthma. But of course, I didn't know that everybody in Belgium was telling them that I had asthma, or that they had straight feet, or that they were gay, or I don't know what, right, to get out of military service. So they went, well, I'm not testing you for that. Everybody has that. Everybody says that. So after 9 months, I had an asthma attack in the base. Went to the doctor and said, can you give me an inhaler? And he said, sure, you can't have an inhaler. You don't have asthma. And I was like, have a listen to my lungs, man. I have asthma. And he's like, oh, man. Oh. So there was a massive kerfuffle. And I was basically discharged within 3 days or something. So I had nearly finished the service. And then it was like, oh, you're medically discharged. You better go. And basically, you better go because we know that you could basically, I don't know, sue us, or I don't know what, because we didn't test you, you know. So I ended up doing 9 months. But after all the hard training and after all the, you know, got to be an air commando, all this hard stuff, I was sent to an air base where basically I had to do guard duty a lot of the time, or pair socks, because my day job was in the clothing department. So I spent like 7 months pairing socks and guarding people. You will be like, it's funny, you know. But yeah,
when you found yourself out, what was the first thing you wanted to do that you were not able to when you were in the military? Was there something you were craving for?
Grow my hair.
You had hair before. Sorry, I didn't know. I always knew like that, so I can't imagine hair with hair. Sorry, my bad.
I had long hair when I was going in, and of course, the first thing we did is shave it down, you know, like not much longer than this. So when I came out, I was like, I don't want to wear a uniform, and I need to grow my hair. So I grew like a massive half afro after, you know, I was like going back to college afterwards. I had a huge long beard and huge long hair. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. So get rid of the uniform, stupid rid uniform, and grow my hair.
That was nowhere in my mind, you know, but makes sense. Makes sense.